Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Is 5 sets of quads twice a week enough if progressively overloading? Most of my volume is posterior chain. Well, you've already answered the question yourself. If there's progressive overload. Probably. Now the question becomes, are you asking, is this enough for any muscle growth? Or is this enough for optimal or maximal muscle growth? Because those are two different questions. If you were talking about maximum, then it's going to depend on the individual. It's going to depend on where your weak points are, what you need. I don't ever think just quads, though. I tend to think of quads and adductors together because I would never, ever, ever try to isolate the quads. There's no benefit to a lifter to doing this. There's no point. And, I say that, but maybe one day I'll think of a reason or an exception. As of right now, I don't have one. Make sure your adductors are strong too. But that being said, you could do 5 sets once a week. And if progressive overload is there, they will grow. Your quads will get bigger. But here's the other question. How do you ensure progressive overload? Well, by working hard enough with enough volume. Because people get this idea that they can just automatically progressively overload. They're like, as long as I keep adding weight to the bar, whatever I'm doing will stimulate muscle growth. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Whatever you're doing better stimulate muscle growth, or you won't be able to keep adding weight to the bar. Does that make sense? In other words, you answered the question yourself. If you're able to continually progressively overload, then obviously you are gaining muscle. What happens when you stop being able to progressively overload? That's when you better learn how to program. That's when you better learn how to train. Because you will reach that point. And at that point, the question becomes, are these 10 total sets a week enough? Maybe, maybe not. Are you programming something wrong? Is there something you need to be doing different while still keeping the same number of sets? Do you need different exercises? Do you need to adjust ranges of motion? Is there something else you need to do? You need to adjust percentages or reps in reserve, right? You're going to need to make an adjustment. Because if progressive overload isn't the solution, it's kind of the proof. That's the way to look at it. All right, next question. Is a combination of HIIT and LISS running an elliptical work enough for GPP? Is GPP trying to train much else other than cardio, provided I'm already strength training? No, that's not GPP. Okay. General physical preparedness is usually something you're doing to where you are moving your body against resistance. You're just sitting on a machine. And I'm not saying that doesn't give you cardio, but GPP is not cardio. It is strength-based conditioning work, right? It means general physical preparedness. Right? This is not GPP. In fact, if you did a bunch of 10 rep sets or 20 rep sets of squats, that would actually be more GPP than what you're doing. Now, does LISS cardio have health benefits? There are good reasons to do LISS cardio, absolutely. Not conditioning. It's not going to carry over to your lifting. Same thing with a lot of the HIIT stuff, the way people do it. You talk about intervals dragging a sled outside across the ground. You're talking about the original HIIT, which was Tabata stuff using barbell complexes, where you rotate through exercises in a series for conditioning, where you do like 5 or 6, 7 different barbell lifts for submaximal sets for lightweight, and then do them back to back to back to back, rest 30 seconds, repeat. That is GPP. That's the original HIIT. And they take that original HIIT that was created way back in the day and tested and looked at, and they try to carry it over to getting on a machine or something, and it's not the same thing. That's not even the original HIIT cardio, the way it was originally done and tested and looked at in the lab. And no, it's not going to give you all the same benefits. It's not just about cardio. It's about conditioning work that carries over to your sports and other activity, right? It needs to make you more athletic. What do I do for GPP? I drag a sled, right? With a harness, I get out and drag a sled. That's my biggest one. Could some of my plyometrics and stuff count as GPP? Some people would count it as GPP. I do plyometrics, I do box jumps, I do med ball throws. I do those things. I used to do farmer's walks. I haven't been doing them lately. I don't get that much out of them. Loaded carries, barbell complexes. That's GPP. Okay. You're doing LISS cardio and interval training. Not the same thing. That interval training you're doing is not going to make you a better lifter probably, and probably not going to make you more athletic to the same degree the other stuff will. Because what we're looking at with our GPP is it actually improving our strength-based conditioning. Right? That affects our training itself. There's a difference between dragging a sled versus an elliptical. Sled is going to make your squat go up. All right, next question and last question of the week. What is the best way to grow calves and rear delts? The same way every other muscle grows. No, that's not my opinion. This is what's been found looking in the lab. The reason people don't think rear delts, for example, grow that well, or that they need a lot of extra work, is because people don't train them, right? People have lagging rear delts because they don't train them. And what I mean is they don't do lots of rowing, and they don't do a lot of other barbell movements for the upper back. And rowing doesn't have to be barbells. I prefer dumbbells these days personally, given a choice. Rowing builds rear delts. You can maximize rear delts off of purely rowing if you just do enough rowing volume, right? We need to be very clear on that. But upright rows, snatch grip, high pulls, stuff like that, that will build rear delts. The reason guys don't have rear delts is because they train only their side and front delts, and they do a bunch of lat pull downs. They don't do enough rows. It's a lot of gym bros, which of course makes it seem like rear delts are difficult to build. They actually aren't. They're just not training them. They're not training their upper back really correctly at all. More rowing, right? Or if you're not going to row, snatch grip, high pulls, things like that, that'll build all of that. They grow just fine. And, do some rear delt flies if you need more. Some face pulls. But they don't need anything different in terms of volume than other muscles. Calves get this reputation because your starting point is extremely genetic. Calf growth. Calves have been found to respond the same as all other muscles in the lab when it comes to hypertrophy. The same volumes, reps, and sets that will make your biceps or pec grow will make your calves grow. Period. It's that the starting point is very genetic, which also means the finish point can be pretty genetic too. Because if a guy starts with 4-inch more calf muscle than someone else, he's going to have more calf potential. There's an enormous genetic component to calves, and we know this. And it oftentimes has to do with the number of muscle fibers in the calves. They're one of the muscles that in humans, for a whole host of reasons, from different parts of the world and things, have more muscle fibers in their calves than others. And that's genetic. But the rate that those fibers grow at, calves do not respond any differently than other muscles in the body. This is what's been found. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.